My name is Nicole. I'm a realtor here in Frederick County in beautiful Maryland, and also work across into the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. And many times I'm working with first-time homebuyers who come across several different things that they've just never anticipated. I love this particular demographic because, you know, it's very exciting to help somebody through a process at the end of which they're absolutely delighted and confident in the choice and the decision that they've made. But there are some hidden costs that I love to talk to people about so that they can prepare for them. So I'm going to go through the 5 hidden costs of buying a house. Well, the first one is closing costs. Many people don't realize that closing costs can be about 5% of the sales price of the house that you are buying. And what is included in closing costs are any taxes, fees, title company fees, lender origination fees, appraisal fees. So there's a whole bulk load that goes into what we call closing costs that you've got to make sure that you've got aside. Now, sometimes this can be negotiated where the seller can help you with some of those closing costs, but even so, you should be prepared that at least 5%, some cases it's less, of the actual asking cost will go towards closing costs. So if you're asking for a house at $350,000, that's approximately $17,500 that you've got to keep aside or think of how you're going to come up with that to close. The second thing is inspection fees. Now, there are 2 different ways that you can inspect a house nowadays. And I say nowadays because a year and a half ago, this just didn't exist. There was basically one inspection fee. So the first one, which has developed this past year, is a walkthrough, which is where you have a home inspector who goes through the house at the time that you are either first or second viewing the house. And they are basically just examining as much as they can without taking things apart, without spending a long time and diving into a huge amount of depth. Now that's going to cost you a minimum of $250. Then you also get the full appraisal, which is what we were used to before it became such a crazy seller's market. And we had to, help clients submit offers where they were not going to include a home inspection. But now, hopefully it's returning a little bit more to normal. A full home inspection is going to cost you upwards of $400. And I say upwards of, it can go well over $1,000, depending on the size of the home that you are buying. And you, at the end of that, get a really detailed report alerting to you what are the urgent things, what are the medium priority, what are the just general maintenance type things that you should be doing on the house going forward. So there you have title costs and you have insurance fees. Now, if you're moving out into the countryside, you also want to consider that you're going to have to do well and septic fees, because if you're not on public water and sewer, you're going to have to inspect your well, make sure that it is pumping correctly, what the flow is, also that the bacteria in the water is being managed. Is there a UV light system? Is there some kind of filtration system? What is there and is it working correctly? You're also going to have to look at your septic and to understand, is your septic field still in good condition? Is it flowing correctly? Is it the right septic to the amount of rooms in the house? Or did somebody add on rooms to the house but didn't and bathrooms to the house but didn't increase the septic field? And also, how well is the septic itself working? Is the baffle working correctly? Now, septic is going to cost you anywhere upwards of $350 depending on what it's going to cost. And, so people don't often think about that, but that's, another hidden cost that comes in. Then you also have fees like your earnest money deposit. So an earnest money deposit is typically 1% of the offer price. And this is something that the buyer puts down in earnest to hold the contract, to show that they are in earnest when making their offer. And it is held either by a title company or by the brokerage of the buyer's firm. So in my case, it would be Caris Realty who are holding onto that earnest money. And they're putting it into an escrow account, which means it is an account that cannot be used for anything other than this particular purpose, to the purchase of this particular property. And the earnest money deposit at 1% if you're buying a property at $350,000 would be $3,500, you've got to put that down upfront at the moment that you're putting in the contract or within 3 days of the contract being ratified. That money then gets held to the closing date and then gets used towards your closing expenses. So it does come back to you. It's just that you're not going to be able to rely on that $3,500 during the month that you may have other expenses. So you've got to think of putting that aside. Then the other thing to think about is, of course, moving. People don't anticipate exactly how much it's going to cost them. You've got to buy packing materials. You've got to buy boxes if you haven't been able to pick them up for free on Facebook or, at any of the grocery stores. Grocery stores don't often give away boxes anymore. So your moving costs are going to be quite substantial because you've also got the tip to think about. How much are you going to tip your movers, especially if you've got very heavy furniture and they've been working for you all day, okay? And then once you're actually in the house, there are additional expenses because you find, oh, it's missing that, or you want to replace this, or, you need some hooks, or you want to repaint something. And all of those costs begin to mount. So making sure that you've got enough to cover your closing costs, your earnest money deposit, any inspections, well and septic, your earnest money deposit, as well as your moving costs. I hope this has been helpful to you. Again, my name is Nicole Aliev. I'd love to help you in your search for a new home. You can contact me on 301-305-5169, and you can find me on Facebook at Nicole Sells Frederick. I'm a great Instagrammer. I'm also a YouTuber, and my website is also Nicole Sells Frederick. I look forward to working with you and being able to guide you through the process. Thanks for joining me.